Sergeant Marcus Hale never planned to be a hero. He was just a soldier who did his duty and tried to stay alive. On Ishtar 4. Staying alive was not easy. The wastelands were endless stretches of burnt sand, twisted metal, and broken dreams. The sun never stopped burning, and the wind always carried the taste of ash. Marcus's unit, Bravo Squad, had been moving through the ruins of an old mining colony when the Zevrans attacked. The enemy came fast and quiet, like ghosts. In minutes, the squad was scattered. Marcus fired back until his rifle jammed with sand. Then he ran, dodging blasts that turned the old concrete buildings to dust. Now, hours later, Marcus walked alone through the wasteland. His armor was dented, his helmet cracked. He had lost his pack when he fell down a rocky slope, so he carried only a half-empty canteen and his combat knife strapped to his chest. Each step sent pain through his leg where shrapnel had cut him. But Marcus kept moving. He always kept moving. The map on his wrist unit showed a coalition outpost about 20 miles northeast. If he could reach it, he might find the rest of Bravo Squad, or at least a safe place to rest. He checked the sky for drones and listened for the hum of Zevran patrols. All he heard was the wind. Then he saw something strange ahead, a trail of smoke rising behind a dune. Marcus dropped to one knee, scanning the horizon. The smoke was thin but steady. It didn't look like a trap, but he had learned the hard way that traps never looked like traps. Slowly, he climbed the dune, careful not to send rocks rolling down. At the top, he lay flat and peered over. Below him was the wreckage of a small Zevran scout ship. Its sleek silver hull was cracked open like an egg. Wires sparked, and pieces of metal littered the sand. At first, Marcus saw no one. He scanned the area through his cracked visor. Then he spotted a figure lying near the ship, half buried in sand and debris. Even from this distance, Marcus could see the person was small to be a soldier in full armor. His training told him to leave it alone. The enemy was the enemy. If she was alive, she would call for help, and help meant death for him. But something else tugged at him, a memory of his sister, who had died when the Zevrans bombed their city. He remembered her tiny hand gripping his, asking him not to leave her alone. He muttered a curse under his breath. Then he slid down the dune. Up close, Marcus saw that the figure was a young woman, an alien. For sure. Her skin was pale with a faint shimmer, almost silver under the sun. Her hair spilled around her like threads of moonlight. Strange markings, like tattoos or birthmarks, ran along her neck and arms. She wore a thin armored suit, now torn and scorched. Marcus knelt beside her and checked her pulse. It was weak but steady. He noticed her chest rising and falling. She was breathing, but shallowly. One of her legs was bent the wrong way, and a deep cut ran across her forehead. He looked at the wreckage. The Zevrans might come searching for her any moment. If they found him here, they would shoot him on sight. He glanced back at the girl. She looked so small, so breakable. Why am I doing this? He asked himself. He unhooked his canteen and poured a few drops into her mouth. She coughed and stirred but did not wake. Marcus tore strips from his own scarf and wrapped them around her head wound. He did his best to splint her broken leg with metal shards from the ship. Marcus knew he could not stay here. Night would bring freezing cold and scavengers. Worse, Zevran drones would find the ship soon. If they found him with her, he would be shot as a traitor or worse. He checked the map on his wrist again. The outpost was still 20 miles away. Marcus was already half dead on his own. Carrying her would slow him down. He should leave her here. He should get up, walk away, and forget she ever existed. Instead, Marcus slipped his arms under her shoulders and knees. He lifted her carefully. She was lighter than he expected. She gave a faint sigh and leaned her head against his chest. He could feel her warmth through his cracked armor. Marcus stood there for a moment, looking at the empty sky. He thought of Bravo Squad, of his sister, of the city he lost. He thought of all the orders that told him to hate the enemy. Then he started walking. Each step felt heavier than the last. The sun burned his back, and the wind blew dust into his eyes. He shifted her weight when his arms went numb. He whispered to her as he walked, though he knew she could not hear him. Stay with me, all right? Just a little longer. We'll get out of this mess together. He paused every hour to check her breathing. Once, he saw a shadow move on a far ridge's Zevran patrol drone. Maybe he hid behind a rock, holding her close, not daring to breathe. When the shadow passed, he kept moving. By nightfall, Marcus found a small cave carved into a cliffside. He laid the girl down gently and gathered scraps of dry brush for a small fire. He gave her more water, wishing he had food for her too. He did not sleep. He sat beside her all night, listening to the wind howl outside the cave. In the dark, he wondered who she was, a scout, a pilot, a runaway. He told himself it didn't matter. He was not doing this for the coalition or the war. He was doing this because leaving her to die alone felt wrong. He had seen too much death already. As the first pale light of dawn crept into the cave, Marcus checked the map again. 19 miles to go. He looked down at the girl. Her eyelids fluttered, but she did not wake. Marcus squeezed her hand for a moment. Hang in there, he whispered. We're not done yet. He knew tomorrow would be harder than today. But Marcus Hale was a soldier. He had made a promise now, without speaking it out loud. He would carry her through the wasteland. He would not let her die alone. He stood guard as the sun rose, ready to keep walking as soon as the light was strong enough to see. 20 miles of dust and danger waited for them both. And Marcus knew he would not leave her behind. Not now. Not ever. Marcus Hale woke just before dawn. The cold in the cave made his joints stiff and his breath fogged the air. The fire he built had burned down to ash, but the alien girl beside him was still warm. She looked peaceful, but Marcus knew she was not safe yet, not out here. He rubbed his eyes and checked his map again. 19 miles left to the coalition outpost. The map also showed red dots, places where Zevran patrols might be. Marcus knew the map could be old. Patrols moved fast. One wrong turn and they would be caught. He leaned close to the girl. Her breathing was steadier than before. He took that as a good sign. He gave her the last of his water, drop by drop, careful not to choke her. She made a small sound, like a sigh, but did not wake. Marcus packed what little he had. He wrapped her in an old blanket he found in the cave and lifted her into his arms. Again, his shoulders ached from carrying her yesterday. His back felt raw where the arm rubbed his skin. Still, he knew he would not stop. Not now. He stepped out into the early light. The wasteland stretched before him, flat and silent, with dark rocks and drifting sand far ahead. The land rose into broken hills. If he could reach those hills by night, they might find shelter again. Marcus started walking. The sun climbed higher. Soon, heat waves danced across the sand. Each step felt heavier than the last. He shifted her weight from one arm to the other, careful not to drop her. Sometimes he had to stop to rest his burning muscles. Once, he found the wreck of an old supply drone half buried in sand. He laid the girl down in the shade of the drone's broken wing and pried it open. Inside, he found a half-full water bottle and a cracked ration bar. It was stale, but he did not care. He drank half the water and gave the rest to her. He broke the ration bar into tiny pieces and pressed them to her lips. She swallowed a little without waking. Marcus ate the rest quickly, feeling new strength fill his tired body. As he walked on, Marcus talked to her. He did not know why. Maybe to keep himself from going mad. You know, I joined the army because my dad did, he told her, as if she could hear every word. Didn't really want to, but I had no choice after they bombed our home. He looked down at her sleeping face. Her skin seemed to glow under the sun. You don't look like a monster, he said softly. They told us your people hate us, that you think humans are lower than dirt, but you don't look like someone who hates anything. He laughed dryly. His voice sounded small in the endless wasteland. Look at me, talking to an unconscious alien girl. Maybe the sun really cooked my brain. Hours passed. Marcus found a shallow ravine where old pipelines stuck out of the sand like broken bones. He carried her down and rested in the thin shade. He checked her wounds again. The bandage on her head was soaked with blood. He changed it using strips of his own shirt. As he worked, her eyes opened for a second pale silver, wide and bright. She stared at him, confused, lips moving, but no words came out. Marcus felt his heart jump. "Hey," he whispered, surprised at how soft his voice sounded. "You're awake." She tried to speak, but only a hoarse sound came out. She grabbed his wrist weakly. Her hand was cold. Her eyes searched his face like she was trying to remember something. Then she slipped back into sleep. Marcus sat there, holding her hand a moment longer before he let it rest on her chest. The wind picked up in the afternoon. Sand stung his face and eyes. He wrapped his scarf over his mouth and nose. He pulled the blanket tight around the girl to keep the sand from her wounds. A low rumble echoed over the dunes. Marcus froze and looked up. A dark shape crossed the sun-and enemy drone, its wings wide and silent. He pressed himself and the girl against a broken pipeline, holding his breath as the drone scanned the ground with a pale blue light. Marcus shut his eyes and prayed it would not find them. The light passed over once, twice, then the drone drifted away, humming low like an angry insect. Marcus waited until it was gone before he moved again. By sunset, Marcus reached the edge of the broken hills. The land here was rough or jagged. Rocks and sharp ridges where old rivers had carved deep cuts long ago. He found a narrow canyon where they could hide for the night. Inside the canyon, he laid her down on a flat stone. He sat beside her, legs stretched out, staring at the darkening sky. He felt so tired that he thought he might sleep forever if he closed his eyes. He did not sleep. He kept watch as the stars came out, bright and sharp above the black hills. He thought about his squad. Were they alive? Did they make it to the outpost? Did they even know he was still out here? He looked at the girl's face in the starlight. Without the sun, she looked softer, almost human. He wondered what her name was, what she had seen before he found her. He pulled the blanket higher around her shoulders. She murmured something in her own language, a soft whisper that made no sense to him. He answered anyway. "Don't worry. You're safe. I won't leave you." In the middle of the night, Marcus heard footsteps, soft, careful. He pressed his back against the canyon wall and drew his knife. A figure appeared at the canyon entrance, a desert scavenger beast, sniffing the air. Its eyes glowed yellow in the dark. Marcus knew the creature would attack if it smelled weakness. He stood tall and shouted, waving his arms. The creature hissed, but backed away into the shadows. Marcus stood guard until the stars began to fade. When the first light of dawn touched the canyon walls, Marcus knelt by the girl again. He felt her forehead. She was warm, but not burning. That was good. He gave her the last drops of water and brushed a strand of silver hair from her face. He checked the map once more. 17 miles to the outpost. It felt impossible, but Marcus had come this far. He would go farther. He picked her up, held her tight against his chest, and stepped out of the canyon as the sun rose over the hills. The wasteland waited for them, endless and harsh. But Marcus Hell kept walking. He would not stop now, not while she needed him. Marcus Hell did not remember falling. He only remembered the pain in his shoulders, the heat in his lungs, and the taste of blood in his mouth. Then darkness took him. When he woke, he was lying on a hard metal bed under bright white lights. For a moment, he thought he was dead, but the steady hum of machines told him he was somewhere safe, at least for now. He tried to sit up. His whole body hurt. Bandages wrapped his chest and arms. A sharp sting told him they had cleaned the cuts on his leg. He looked around. The room was small, clean, and cold. A white flag with the blue coalition symbol hung on the wall. He had made it. He had reached the outpost. But where was the girl? Marcus forced himself to sit up more. Pain shot through his side, but he gritted his teeth. The door hissed open. A young man in a gray uniform stepped in. He looked surprised to see Marcus awake. "You're alive," the young soldier said. His badge read Medic First Class Ramos. "Where is she?" Marcus asked, his voice dry and rough. Ramos blinked. "You mean the Zevran?" Marcus grabbed the edge of the bed. "Where is she? Is she alive?" Ramos nodded slowly. "She's alive. She's in the medbay down the hall." You carried her all the way here?" Marcus nodded. His head spun. He closed his eyes for a moment, fighting the wave of weakness that washed over him. "You shouldn't move yet," Ramos said. "You lost a lot of blood. They patched you up, but you need rest." Marcus opened his eyes and stared at the young medic. "Take me to her." They moved him in a wheelchair because Marcus's legs would not carry him yet. Ramos pushed him. Down a bright hallway, soldiers in white armor turned to look at Marcus with hard, curious eyes. Some whispered behind his back. He ignored them. All he cared about was seeing the girl, making sure she was safe. Ramos stopped at a glass door. Inside, the girl lay on a clean bed. Soft light shone above her. Tubes ran from her arm to a machine that beeped gently. A nurse was checking a screen beside her. She looked so different now, clean, dressed in a plain white patient gown. Her silver hair spread like a halo on the pillow. Her chest rose and fell slowly but calmly. "She was in bad shape when you brought her in," Ramos said. The doctors were shocked. They didn't expect her to survive the night. Marcus pressed his hand to the glass. "Can I see her?" Ramos looked unsure. You should know something first. The higher-ups, Colonel Briggs, and the intel guys, they ran her, Prince. She's not just any Zevran." Marcus turned to him. "What do you mean?" Ramos lowered his voice. "She's Princess Kaelira, the Zevran heir. She's like their future queen or something. Everyone knows her face from the news vids. You carried the enemy's princess through the wasteland." Marcus felt the floor drop away inside his mind. The princess? The Zevran princess? He looked at her again through the glass. She looked so small, so breakable. She did not look like someone who ruled anything. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Ramos shrugged. "Briggs wants to talk to you. Some think you saved her because you're a spy. Others say you did the right thing. They're all arguing. It's above my pay grade." Marcus closed his eyes. He did not care about politics. He only remembered the broken girl in the sand, her head on his chest as he carried her mile after mile. A few hours later, Marcus sat in a small meeting room. 2 soldiers in heavy armor stood behind him. Across the table sat Colonel Briggs, a tall man with a deep scar down his cheek and cold gray eyes. "Sergeant Hale," Briggs said, his voice flat. "Do you know what you've done?" Marcus looked him in the eye. "I saved a life." Briggs leaned forward. "You carried the enemy princess 20 miles through hostile land. Do you know how that looks?" "You know the rules, Sergeant. Fraternizing with the enemy is treason." Marcus's fists clenched under the table. "She was dying. I couldn't leave her there." Briggs studied him in silence. "Why not? She's the face of their empire. She gives the orders that kill our people." Marcus's voice was steady. "Maybe so. But out there, she was just another life. I won't let someone die alone if I can help it." Briggs's eyes narrowed. He pulled up a small data pad and tapped it. A screen on the wall showed Kaelira's file pictures of her standing with Zevran leaders, wearing flowing royal robes, her silver hair tied back in braids, her eyes cold and proud. "You expect me to believe you didn't know who she was?" Briggs asked. "I didn't," Marcus said simply. "She was just someone who needed help." Briggs stared at him for a long moment, then shut off the screen. "You'll stay here under watch. Intel wants to question you more. Don't try to leave. Don't try to see her again until we say so." Marcus looked away. He did not argue. He had said what he needed to say. The guards took him back to the medical wing. They gave him a small room with no window and a locked door. Marcus lay on the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. His mind spun with questions. Why was Kaelira in that ship alone? Why did she crash? Why was she trying to speak when she woke? He knew only one thing for sure. This was far from over. Later that night, the door to his room slid open without warning. Marcus sat up, ready for another round of questions. But instead of guards, he saw her. Kaelira stood in the doorway. She wore a plain robe, her hair tied back loosely. She leaned against the frame, her legs still weak. 2 small dots of color glowed softly under her skin at her temples, signs of her Zevran heritage. Marcus stood up slowly. "You shouldn't be here." She stepped inside, her eyes locked on his. Her voice was soft, clear, and carried a strange, musical tone. You carried me when I was dying. Why? Marcus swallowed. You needed help. Kaylira took another step forward, her eyes shone in the dim light like pools of silver water. You could have left me. You didn't. That means something in my people's ways. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? She placed her hand over her heart. I owe you a life debt. And there is something else, something you need to know. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What is it? Kaylira looked him in the eyes, her lips trembling just slightly. I'm carrying your child. The room seemed to spin. Marcus opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Kaylira stepped closer. They will come for me. They will come. For you, and for what grows inside me. We must leave together. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. He stared at her, realizing that the journey through the wasteland was only the beginning. Marcus Hale sat on the small bed in his holding room. The metal walls felt like they were closing in on him. Outside the door, he could hear the boots of the guards moving back and forth. He knew they were watching him closely now, ever since he had seen Kaylira awake and spoken to her. Colonel Briggs had ordered tighter security. Marcus felt the weight of the promise he had made to her. He did not know how he would keep it, but he knew he must try. His thoughts were broken when the door hissed open. A young medic named Ramos stepped inside with a food tray. You need to eat something, Ramos said, placing the tray on the table beside Marcus. He glanced at the guard outside, then leaned closer. They're moving her tonight. Marcus looked up sharply. What do you mean? Ramos spoke in a low voice. Colonel Briggs wants to move her to Central Command. They think it's safer to keep her far from the front lines. A transport ship leaves in 2 hours. Marcus felt his heart sink. Once Kaylira was at Central Command, he would never see her again. She would become a bargaining chip, locked away in some hidden base. Why are you telling me this? Marcus asked. Ramos looked uneasy. He lowered his voice more. I don't like what they're planning to do to her. I saw the files. They want to break her, make her talk, make her swear loyalty. If she refuses, they'll use her anyway. I don't want that. Marcus stood, ignoring the pain in his side. Help me. Ramos's eyes widened. What? Help me get her out, Marcus said. His voice was calm but strong. You know the base better than anyone. You can tell me when the guards change, which doors are unlocked, and where they keep her. Ramos swallowed hard. He looked at Marcus, then at the guard by the door. Finally, he nodded quickly. Okay, but if they catch us, we're dead. Marcus put a hand on his shoulder. They won't catch us. 2 hours later, the cold hallways of the base were silent except for the soft hum of the lights above. Marcus moved like a shadow through the narrow corridors. Wearing a stolen gray uniform and cap Ramos had given him, his heart pounded with every step. At a corner near the medbay, Ramos was waiting for him. He pointed down a side hall. 2 guards at her door. They change shifts in 5 minutes. That's your chance. Marcus nodded. What about cameras? Ramos handed him a small device. This will loop the feed for 30 seconds. After that, you're on your own. Marcus took it. Thank you. Ramos grabbed his arm. She's in room 12. Move fast, Sergeant. Good luck. Marcus slipped down the hall, pressed against the wall when the 2 guards turned to talk quietly at the far end. He placed the small device on the camera above the door. The red light blinked once, then turned green. 30 seconds, Marcus stepped forward. 1 guard saw him too late. With a single, silent move, Marcus hit the man behind the knee, then covered his mouth as he fell. The other guard turned in shock, but Marcus knocked him out with the butt of his stolen rifle. He dragged both guards into a storage closet nearby, then opened the door to Kaylira's room. She was sitting on the bed, looking weak but awake. When she saw Marcus, her eyes widened with surprise and hope. Marcus, she whispered. What are you doing? Keeping my promise, he said. He helped her stand. She was still weak, so he wrapped her arm over his shoulder. Kaylira looked into his eyes. You'll be marked as a traitor. Marcus gave a small, tired smile. Maybe, but you're not just a prisoner. You're a person. And I said I wouldn't let them use you. They moved down the hallway, slow but steady. Kaylira leaned heavily on Marcus, but she did not complain. Her silver hair was tied back under a plain hood. From a distance, she looked like any other. Patient, Marcus led her through a service tunnel Ramos had told him about. It smelled of oil and old metal. Pipes hissed steam overhead. Behind them, alarms started to buzz. The guards must have found the closet by now. They had only minutes left. Kaylira looked up at Marcus, fear in her voice. They know, I know, Marcus said, tightening his grip on her waist. We just need a little more time. They reached an old door marked maintenance. Marcus forced it open and led Kaylira out into the cold night air. The desert wind stung their faces. Overhead, the stars were sharp and clear, near the fence. Ramos waited with a small transport bike. When he saw them, he waved them over. Hurry, Ramos said. They'll be here any second. Marcus helped Kaylira onto the back of the bike and climbed on in front. Ramos shoved a small bag into Marcus's hand. Food, water, a map, Ramos said quickly. I disabled the tracking chip in the bike, but you'll have to ditch it soon. Marcus reached out and gripped Ramos's hand. You didn't have to do this. Ramos forced a smile. Just don't get caught. Make this worth it. Kaylira leaned forward and whispered, thank you. Behind them, a siren wailed. Bright lights flashed at the far end of the yard. Soldiers were pouring out, shouting orders. Marcus kicked the bike to life. The engine hummed softly, then roared. He twisted the handle, and they sped forward. Sand and dust sprang behind them. Shots rang out, but they were too far now. The bike jumped over the outer fence and sped into the dark desert. Hours later, the sun began to rise over the endless sand. Marcus pulled the bike to a stop near a dry riverbed. Kaylira leaned against him, exhausted but awake. They sat under the shade of a rock, sharing water from a small bottle. Kaylira looked at Marcus. Where will we go now? Marcus stared at the endless horizon. He did not know exactly, but he knew they could not turn back. Somewhere safe, he said. Somewhere they can't find us. We'll figure it out, 1 mile at a time. Kaylira laid her head on his shoulder. For the first time since the crash, she looked at peace. As the sun rose higher, Marcus knew there was no turning back. He had left his old life behind. Now, he had a promise to keep, a promise bigger than any war. The desert stretched for miles in every direction. Orange sand dunes rose and fell under the hot sun. The small transport bike lay hidden under a tarp near a dry riverbed. Marcus and Kaylira sat under a large rock that gave them little shade. They had escaped the base, but now the real challenge began. They had no real plan. No safe place to run to, only a few supplies, a map, and the promise that Marcus would protect her. Kaylira drank water slowly, careful not to waste a single drop. She handed the bottle back to Marcus. You need it more than I do, she said softly. Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead and took a sip. We both need it. We'll find more. There's an old village about 20 miles east. If this map is right, Kaylira pulled her knees to her chest. She looked at the rising sun and the endless sand. Do you really think we can hide forever? Marcus looked at her and saw the worry in her silver eyes. Not forever, but long enough to figure out what's next. She reached out and touched his hand. I trust you. Her words gave him strength. He squeezed her hand and stood. Come on. We should keep moving while it's still early. They walked side by side through the dunes. Marcus held the small map in one hand and Kaylira's hand in the other. The sun rose higher and the sand burned under their boots. Hours passed. Marcus's back hurt, but he didn't complain. Kaylira's steps were slow, but she kept moving. She did not want to be a burden. By late afternoon, they saw signs of life: broken fences, old water tanks, a few dead trees. The village was near. When they reached the edge, they found a few stone huts and an empty well. The village looked abandoned. Broken doors swung in the dry wind. Kaylira sat on a stone and rested her head in her hands. No people, no water. Marcus checked every hut, searching for anything useful. He found old blankets, a rusty canteen with a little water, and a torn cloak. He brought them back to Kaylira. It's not much, but it's something. She managed a tired smile. It's enough. We're still alive. They sat together inside one of the small huts. The roof had holes, but it kept out most of the sun. Marcus spread the blankets on the floor. Kaylira lay down slowly, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. "Get some sleep," Marcus said. She reached for his hand again. "Stay close." "I'm not going anywhere," Marcus promised. When Kaylira fell asleep, Marcus stepped outside. He needed to think. He looked at the map again. The closest safe town was days away on foot. The bike could not be used again, it would be tracked by now. He felt the weight of the desert pressing on him. He knew soldiers were looking for them. Drones could be flying overhead. Every hour counted. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence. Marcus turned sharply. Someone was watching him. Out of the shadows stepped a thin old man in worn desert clothes. His eyes were sharp but not unkind. "You don't belong here," the old man said. His voice was rough like dry leaves. Marcus did not reach for his gun. He raised his hand slowly. "We're just passing through. We don't want trouble." The old man stepped closer. He looked past Marcus and saw Kaylira sleeping inside the hut. "She's not from here, is she?" the old man asked. "Her hair, her eyes, Zevran?" Marcus nodded. "Please, we're just trying to keep her safe." The old man studied him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the old man said, "There's a well under this village, deep, not dry like the others. My people use it when the big cities forget us." Marcus felt hope. "Can we use it?" The old man nodded once. "Follow me." The old man led Marcus to a hidden entrance behind a broken wall. They climbed down a short ladder into a cool, dark cave. At the center was an old well, covered with stones. The old man pushed the stones aside and dropped a bucket tied to a long rope. He pulled up clear, cold water. Marcus drank deeply. The water felt like life itself. He filled the canteen and thanked the old man. The old man looked at him with kind but serious eyes. "Whoever she is, many will come for her. You cannot stay here long." "I know," Marcus said. The old man patted his shoulder. "Go south. There are free people, they're humans and Zevrans who do not want this war. They might help." "You," Marcus nodded. "Thank you." The old man only smiled. "Take care of her. She's more than just one life. She might be the key to ending all this." That night, Marcus and Kaylira sat by a small fire in the hut. The air was cold, but the fire kept them warm. Kaylira drank the fresh water and ate some dry bread the old man had given Marcus. She looked stronger, her eyes brighter. "Where did you find the water?" she asked. Marcus told her about the old man and his advice about the South. Kaylira listened carefully. "Free people, I've heard of them. Rebels, they don't follow my father or your commanders." "Do you trust them?" Marcus asked. Kaylira thought for a moment. "I trust no one fully, but they might help. They want peace more than war." Marcus watched the flames dance. He felt a faint hope grow inside him. Maybe there was a place where Kaylira could be safe, where they both could be free. Kaylira leaned, her head on his shoulder. "Thank you, Marcus." "For what?" he asked. "For not leaving me behind. For giving me hope." Marcus looked at her and saw the firelight in her silver eyes. He thought about the promise he had made in the base, and the new promise he felt growing in his heart. He would not fail her. As the desert wind blew outside, Marcus and Kaylira held onto the warmth of the fire and the small hope they carried. Together, tomorrow, they would head south into the unknown. Whatever waited for them there, they would face it side by side. Morning came with soft light over the desert. Marcus woke first, feeling the cold air on his face. Beside him, Kaylira still slept, her breathing calm and steady. He listened to the wind blow through cracks in the stone hut. They had spent the night by the fire, whispering about plans and dreams. Now, the fire was only ashes, but something warm still burned inside Marcus' hope. He looked at Kaylira and thought about all they had been through together. He had carried her 20 miles through enemy land, not knowing who she really was. He had protected her when others wanted to use her as a weapon. Now, she carried a new life inside her, his child. And hers, human and Zevran? The thought filled him with both fear and strength. He knew what they were doing was dangerous, but for the first time in his life. He believed it was right. Kaylira woke slowly, opening her silver eyes. She smiled when she saw Marcus watching her. "Good morning," she said softly. "Morning." Marcus replied. He helped her sit up and handed her a piece of dry bread. "We need to eat and move. We can't stay here." Kaylira nodded. She took a bite, chewing slowly. "Do you think the free people will help us?" "They have to," Marcus said. "We don't have any other choice." Kaylira touched her stomach, almost without thinking. "We won't hide forever, Marcus. One day, they will find us. Then we'll be ready," Marcus said firmly. "We'll find people who believe what we believe, peace, not war. If that means fighting, then we fight. But no more running after that." Kaylira looked at him and saw the strength in his eyes. She felt her own courage grow. She was not just an enemy, princess anymore. She was something new, a mother, a bridge between two worlds. They packed their small things, a blanket, some bread, a full water canteen. Marcus checked the old transport bike one last time. Its engine was silent, battery dead. They would travel, on foot now. Before they left the village, Marcus returned to the hidden well. The old man was there again, standing with his back to the rising sun. "You leave today," the old man said without turning. "Yes," Marcus replied. "South, like you said." The old man turned to face him. His eyes were tired but kind. "Remember this, the desert tests all who cross it, but it also hides those who need hiding." Marcus nodded. "Thank you for helping us." The old man put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Take care of her. Take care of the child. That child may be the hope our worlds need." Marcus swallowed hard. "I will," without another word. The old man stepped into the shadows between the ruined huts, disappearing like a ghost. Marcus stood for a moment, feeling the weight of the promise he had made again. They walked south together, leaving the dead village behind. The sun rose higher, burning the sand white. Marcus walked ahead, keeping an eye out for patrols or drones. Kaylira walked behind him, her hand sometimes brushing his, when the sun was too strong. They rested under a rock or an old dry tree. They drank water carefully, never wasting a drop. At night, they shared the blanket and watched the stars. Kaylira told Marcus about her home planet, its blue forests and silver lakes, its towers that touched the clouds. "Will you ever want to go back?" Marcus asked her one night. Kaylira thought for a long time before answering. "Not if my father still rules. He wants war. He wants power. I want peace." Marcus nodded. "Then we find a new home." She leaned against him, tired but at peace. "As long as we're together, I don't care where we live." Days turned to weeks as they crossed the empty land. They found an old road and followed it south. Sometimes they saw signs of other people, tracks in the sand, old campfires, messages scratched on stones. Freedom lives south. Kaylira grew stronger every day. Marcus could see her face getting color again, her steps more steady. Sometimes she touched her belly when she thought he was not looking. He knew she worried about the child. So did he? But they did not speak of fear, they spoke of hope. One night, they saw lights on the horizon, small fires dancing under the stars. Marcus stopped and crouched down, watching carefully. Kaylira whispered, "Is it them?" "I think so," Marcus said. "Free people, rebels." Kaylira held his hand tightly. "What if they don't trust us?" "They will," Marcus said. "They have to." They waited until morning before they stepped closer. At dawn, Marcus and Kaylira walked down a rocky hill toward the small rebel camp. Armed guards stepped out to meet them, their weapons raised. Marcus raised his hand slowly. He could feel Kaylira trembling beside him. A tall woman in a patched coat stepped forward. Her eyes were sharp but curious. She looked at Marcus, then at Kaylira. "You're from the war zone," the woman said. "Who are you?" Marcus spoke carefully, his voice strong. "My name is Marcus Hale. I was a soldier. This is Kaylira. She is not my enemy anymore, she's my family." The woman looked at Kaylira's silver hair, then at Marcus's tired eyes. She saw the truth in their faces. She lowered her weapon. "Why are you here?" she asked. Marcus took a deep breath. "We're looking for peace, for a place to live free from war. We want to help you build it." Kalira stepped forward, her voice clear. I'm Kalira of Zevra. I was a princess once. Now I'm just a mother who wants her child to grow up in a world without war. The rebels looked at each other. The tall woman nodded slowly. You'll have to prove yourselves. But you're welcome for now. Kalira's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Marcus, and he gave her a small, hopeful smile. They had found a place to start again. That night, they sat by a campfire with the rebels. Kalira leaned against Marcus's shoulder. He looked around at the people, human and Zevran refugees together, working as one. He knew it would not be easy. There would be battles ahead and sacrifices. But for the first time, he believed that together they could build something new, a world where their child could grow. Strong and free. Above them, the stars shone bright. The desert wind carried away the ashes of old wars, and in that quiet moment, Marcus knew they were no longer just running, they were home.